Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Righteous Force, Brian's Logic, The Adam Meakin, 10th Man Rising, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, and we've also got somebody, Just Bill, in Element, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Afternoon,
Morning.
everyone.
Good afternoon. Wow, good to have you all. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, they're going to need an R value first. They don't even show us Earth curve, which would defend their claim of being on the globe. So without the R value, how are they going to claim any distance to a luminary?
Well, the idea of R value and Earth curve requires a flat Earth.
Indeed.
There's only the angular size of the sun in the sky. Sorry, Adam.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety, of course?
Well, they say that star trails, the time-lapse photography of the star trails, that proves axial rotation. The problem is, if you look at that whole claim and say, well, the Earth could be stationary and the stars could be moving to cause that. No, it's the Earth spinning. I said, well, what else is the Earth doing in your pseudo model? Isn't it going around the sun at 66,660 miles an hour, and it takes a full year to get back to its same spot? Yeah. Well, then that's another vector. How come that is not smearing the star trails? That destroys their hope. Star trails are impossible on a spinning globe that's orbiting the sun.
Alrighty then. Unfortunately, this computer is a bit of a troublesome nightmare since the day I've had it, if I'm honest, but I'm hopefully getting closer and closer to it becoming more and more stable. And as you can probably see, we've got Element running at the moment without any issue. But hopefully that will last for the entirety of this hour-long live show. But with that, we're going to cover what we started to cover on the last show that crashed, which is a talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So we're going to basically pick off where we've left off, and we'll critique it and then move on to the next video. Hopefully we'll keep this concise.
To create the deviation that we measure. And those calculations were done, and they were published. And an observatory in Germany got hold of those calculations. And they looked in the exact spot of the sky that the calculation said Neptune was waiting to be discovered right there.
Go ahead, whoever that was, you've got that before I did.
I was about to say he's invoking a type of orbital mechanics, which is based on a flat plane in a celestial sphere model. I don't think he realizes that, or if he does, he's not mentioning it. But that's the idea that the stars are going beneath a terrestrial plane, not a planet.
Perfect. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. I was going to say he's invoking Kepler's third law when he begs the question of these interplanetary motions and the predictions that could have been made that were only put in place by the church in the first instance to figure out these motions. He's just picked a particular motion in this pattern and said it's heliocentric by virtue of our assumption of orbits, and Kepler's assumption, more accurately, of orbit or motion, elliptical in nature, and in terms of scale, which he hasn't actually derived in this, you'd have to assume the R value of Earth and Venus. But, in terms of how he's doing that and what that actually is, the begging the question fallacy is massively superseded by the fact that the model itself is an equatorial plane with a celestial semicircle or semi-sphere over the top of it. Hemisphere. There we go. Get there in the end. But that's a flat plane that's been used to make those predictions as described when you actually boil it down to what it functions as or how it operates. So he might not be aware of that. And until John said it 25 seconds ago, I wasn't either. So kudos.
It was a triumph of Newton's laws. And so this gives us confidence. We're not just...
Well, right. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. Richard Feynman. I think we covered that on the last show.
Pulling this out. We calculate this, and the observations show it. So now...
Right, hold on. If you can observe it, then why aren't you measuring it? It shouldn't work the other way around. We calculate it, and then we observe it. Really? No, you should observe it and then measure it if it's real.
This is a crock. This is a lie. This whole story, a concocted lie. I'd heard about it before. Newton. So they do it based on these things and go, here's Neptune, right? And I'll read just from Wiki. I've just found it. In retrospect, after it was discovered, it turned out that it had been observed many times before, but not recognized. I mean, I tell you, whenever you've got a cockamamie, glorious story like that, you know it's all just a lie, basically.
I would give it to them because they need a flat Earth for it. You know, the model they'll invoke is the celestial sphere for their orbital mechanics. Yeah, give it to them.
I was going to
sure,
say,
it's all
Adam,
true.
that's exactly what I was going to go with. I'm glad you said it first. But absolutely, Adam, would you not say that supersedes the fact that it's an orbital assumption and it makes no difference? They're going to need a flat plane for that. Wouldn't you rather just take the win and take the flat Earth proof along with it?
I'll just point out that the claim is incorrect. The claim is they predicted where it would be to see it. But that isn't the case. History demonstrates that it had been observed many times before.
I'm perfect. I'm glad you reiterated your point, Adam. My panel are freaking ace. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Now watch what happens. We have better and better measurements. And we find out Newton's law is failing. Mercury's work.
Whoa. We find out it's what now? Wasn't it all...
That it's not alone.
Yeah, I already affirmed this from my audience multiple times when I told them what Richard Feynman said to give it credibility. But he's the one admitting it now, isn't he, basically? Like, all right, so like with the kiddies, when you tell them it's all true and right and we've worked it all out and it works perfectly. But here we are with it now being described as quote-unquote failing. Isn't that interesting?
Orbit is not following what it should. That's
what it should? What the Newtonian maths said it should do? It doesn't work that way around. The maths doesn't dictate reality.
The closest planet to the sun. Well, we've been down that path before. Just throw in another planet that we can't see, and that'll fix it.
Many a true word spoken in jest. So what he's disclaiming, this astrophysicist, is that where there's a problem in the past, they can just throw in random bodies to solve problems. All right, is that right? I see. What? And then later he'll tell you about some nonsensical material that they haven't discovered yet that they're looking for. And everyone will swallow it whole when they say they found it.
So to fix it, Nathan, they fix it by generating a two-body solution, do they?
Oh, do they now?
They calculate for that.
That's going to be problematic for Einstein now, isn't it?
So, thus was introduced.
Why do they laugh at that? See, me, I'd get up and walk out at that point. So you're telling me that the worldview you're portraying about this heliocentric sphere Earth in a vacuum with these orbital motions you've assumed, when it fails, just slap another random body in. That's what we did before. Oh, right. So when people were presumably persecuted and ridiculed for not accepting this, oh, what do you know, like we are, it doesn't matter that someone's just randomly invented something and chucked it into the model, and then later someone comes along and says, this doesn't work the way it should work with our reality that we're observing. Yeah, that's because maths doesn't dictate reality, and he's openly confessing to an audience who are giggling because he's dropped it in as a jape, that they just randomly invent crap and chuck it in the model. Yeah, it's all crap. That's the bit he isn't confessing. This little tiny disclaimer that, oh yeah, occasionally we have to just, invent a planet or something. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, they do. In fact, the entire model is like that. That's what it all is. But just a little confession, just enough to know that, all right, if you spot some flaw, well, it's only that they occasionally have to invent things in the model. But flat earthers saying the entire model's invented and doesn't comport reality. That's a bit of a step too far. I'll just accept that the reality of the model is still true, even though they're blatantly admitting that things aren't right in it and have just been introduced with absolutely no justification other than to solve problems in the model. Sod reality. The model's not quite working properly, so we'll invent something to make it work properly. Not that working means it comports with reality. It doesn't.
Planet Vulcan.
Hello, Arwen.
This would be a planet very close to the sun. So close it would be hard to see. It would be lost
You'll need an R value and a flat plane to get it to make that close to the sun claim.
in the glare. And so there was the hunt for Vulcan. No one found it. But we knew it had to be there, because that's the same problem as the...
Sorry, you invented it, so you knew it had to be there. Yeah? We know unicorns are real. Why? Well, I invented them. They've got to be there. I've invented them.
discovery of Neptune. Einstein comes along, comes up with his theory of motion and his theory of gravity, the special and general theory of relativity.
These are not scientific theories. If they were, they'd have been based on observing natural phenomena, formulating a hypothesis, that's a cause and effect supposition, validating or invalidating your cause and effect supposition, that's called an experiment, and then forming a theory with the validated result. If A, then B, being validated in the experiment multiple times by multiple people.
Out of those two theories,
They're not theories.
which are corrections to Newton's laws in these...
What, the ones that were told to children as being right were now described as faulty and now being corrected by Einstein? How can he correct them when he's working in a completely different geometry? He's not correcting them. He's invented a different geometry. So it's not corrections to anything.
These extreme regimes. If you're near the sun has very strong gravity. If you...
Really? Strong as in a force, according to Newton and his laws that weren't right? Yeah, it's not a force, though, is it, according to Einstein? It's the fourth dimensional... What, is that the problem-solving dimension that you're talking about? No, this doesn't solve any Newtonian problems when you invent a dimension to bend and stop calling it a force as a result of the geodesics in that space-time that have been bent in the Einsteinian mechanics. That's a totally different geometry. So this is just an outright lie.
If you're moving around in that strong force of...
Strong! Well, it's not a force. But you're putting emphasis on that word for this audience, aren't you, when you're talking about gravity? Liar. Tyson's a charlatan.
gravity, Newton's laws begin to fail.
Really? So why are they still taught to children? Anybody care to give me an answer to that?
That's why they're still called laws.
Why were they ever
Like a
called
moon landing.
laws?
That's the reason. Moon landing.
Oh, good answer, Brian.
Well,
Go
we
ahead.
had,
No, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, the moon landings. During the moon landing claim footage in 1969, they had to portray gravity as a force of gravity. So that's one of the main reasons why they must keep teaching it. Because besides all the reasons that they have that they actually need to be teaching it, but the main reason is that they portrayed that footage as all footage after that as a force of gravity. All the ISS footage, it all involves a force of gravity. That has something that has nothing to do with general relativity, and that's why they need to keep teaching it, because they need to keep it alive to keep their NASA space footage alive. That's the actual truth.
Good answer. Please share the show, by the way. Or is there 55 people watching? Brilliant stuff. Only 15 minutes into the live show. Yes, please smash that share button. There's only 50 people watching because people have shared the show.
And no one knew this. And you look at Einstein's laws, and he says...
Right, laws? They're not laws either. We don't have bent geodesics. We don't have space-time. It's non-physical. It's not applying any laws of nature. It's being described that way to steal valor from descriptions only of things that occur always, inferring that bent geodesics as things that occur always. We just never experience them. Therefore, they're not physical. Therefore, they're not applicable in terms of laws of nature.
Mercury's orbit will not follow Newton's laws. It'll follow this other path.
Why are they still taught in schools? Why are children being brainwashed? What an absolute outrage. They're not right. I made it clear while he was telling the audience how right they were that they weren't right when I described Feynman's quote about how wrong they were. Now he's confessing how wrong they are. Why is this taught to children? Oh, they need to be brainwashed about the moon landing. They need to be growing up in a world that we can travel to the moon, not growing up in a world of wonderment where they look at the twinkling stars and wonder what they are. They have to grow up in a world where they're lied to about gravity so they can still believe a load of set productions with crappy stop-motion animation from the 1960s and 70s. They have to still believe that, don't they? So they're still lied to about this Newtonian force of gravity that isn't real, is broken, is faulty, it's being replaced.
Find out.
I see
And it
what you're
exactly
asking now,
explains.
Nathan.
Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
Well, no, this is the point. So I see what you're asking. The reason it's all taught still is to maintain space, to maintain the heliocentric view, so that fundamentally, from an early age, you can start to believe that you're just lucky to be here. It's a short life. Do what you want. There's no repercussions. There is fundamentally, in the way the existence is described to you from an early age by the state, there is no creator. That's ultimately the point to keep being drilled home. They can change paradigms, but ultimately, as long as there's no creator, that's their definitive aim, as far as I can see.
Well, what I would say is that through the use of their claimed moon footage from 1969 and all footage after that, from every space agency which has to match it, what they're stating is, see the way people are nearly floating away on the moon because the moon has less attractive force than the globe Earth. So that's why you don't float away into space. And that's one of the things they're putting into people's heads. The reason we are not floating away is because of the globe Earth is just big enough to keep us here. You know, if the globe got smaller, we would float away because there isn't enough force of gravity. So that's one of the things they're putting into people's heads from a young age.
Yeah, exactly. So mass attracting mass. The mass of Earth is so big that it does hold us to its surface, whereas you go to the mass of the moon, which is smaller, and it doesn't have as an attractive force. In other words, Newtonian gravity, force of gravity, the lies that are told to children are maintained because of this force that's perpetuated in the myth of the stage production of men on high wire, jumping around in slow motion, in crappy black and white footage that's been filmed third generation off a projection screen that's played from a video, played out to the press off a TV screen that they've been filming to reach us on our crappy black and white TVs of the day, to later be analysed by us and others like us, and showing how it's basically the same as the cinematography quality of the day when it comes to the fakery of space in cinema. That's all it is. It parallels directly. And what do you know? We have direct parallels now with cinematography from the late 90s and early 2000s in our crappy NASA footage. Crapo vision that we get. People on high wire still. They don't even bother going on the vomit comet anymore to fake it. They just stick them in studio, stick them on high wire, remove the ceiling, put it back in post, and everyone's got the idea that there's live men in space floating around, like Superman. It's absolutely nonsense. They're not your god. They're not in the sky heavens floating around. It's nonsense. But there we go. That's what we've got. Crappy cinematography and crappy effects being used to create the idea that there's a gravity force on the moon. So you've got to keep that narrative up until they drop the moon landing. So at the moment, they're in a bit of a tricky situation. One that leaves them indoctrinating and lying to children by their own bloody admission. It's an absolute outrage. One of the specific reasons I homeschool. I don't want my kids lied to by people that are just doing their lies for the paycheck that they get at the end of it. It's not consequential to them about how it'll affect the children when they find out what, at a university grade, wasn't it useful to know all this beautiful maths that doesn't work? No, I'd rather they weren't wasting their time with that in a school. Why should I let them be lied to when I know damn well that it is a lie and Tyson's admitting to it here? Yeah, well, my kids will have been indoctrinated with that if they were in school, wouldn't they? Good job they're not.
Explained the deviations of Mercury. And so people say, oh, see?
Yes.
Didn't you just do a review on the astrophysicist that started with the young child all the way to another astrophysicist where that demonstrates how they do it?
Yes, that's what I was summarising.
Series?
Yes, that's precisely what I was summarising.
Just before you move on, I just want to highlight the lie, because he's now going to use the lie of Neptune to explain why and how they can accommodate for the nonsensical orbit of Mercury. I just want to go back to the initial claim. This is from Scientism.org, and it's just talking about Uranus. Now, apparently it's not possible with the naked eye, okay, but So Neptune is not faint, though, by telescopic standards. In fact, it's bright enough to stimulate colour vision through any telescope with 4 inches. It also states that you can see it with steady hands and binoculars. So this is late 1800s that they're claiming is the first time it's not been seen. How long have we had telescopes for? Yeah, to pretend that this whole premise that you can look at the perturbations of another orbit and predict the gravitational interference of something else and predict where it will be. That's the underlying point, the underlying lie, that they discovered Neptune via this mechanism, this predictive astronomy. And that's what he's now going to try and support his waffle with regards to Mercury, I assume.
These scientists, we thought this was right, and now we all huddle around this thing that's right. No.
That is definitely not what scientists do. If they were scientists, they'd have established empirically the cause and effect they were studying in nature. They wouldn't huddle around it and then suddenly relinquish it because it's an empirical outcome, never to be violated, and useful to develop technology and advance humanity, improve our health, things of that nature. So nobody's walking away from stuff they've huddled around, if they're scientists, to then go and huddle around other stuff. That's pseudoscience mathematicians that do that, not scientists.
That is not how it works since 1600 onward. The way it works is if you have an experimentally determined result.
What, like cause and effect reasoning based on a naturally occurring phenomena with a suppositional statement of cause in the form of a hypothesis validated by systematic experimentation to form theory? That sort of experiment? No. What this will be is the stolen valor. Who was that? Go ahead.
I think it was just going to go for the observe and declare type of experiment.
Well, it won't be scientific. He's just talked about science and experiment. He's just stealing valor.
Well,
And
I
it's
do like
verified?
the observe and
Go on.
I was going to say I do like the observe and declare since it always has a flat Earth underneath it. So I usually let them ride with that.
And double checked and triple checked. That will not later be shown to be false. What you can find is a deeper understanding of the world that encloses that understanding. And that's.
You will not find it to be false. Okay, I'm going to take that apart as well as being incorrect, even by the standards of science that we lay down that he's stealing valor from when he talks about experimental empiricism, which is what he's trying to steal valor from, because he's just detailed it. Okay, no, that isn't correct, because there are certain experimental outcomes that are still empirical by nature that have validated the null. Now, by nature of the setup and formulation of the logic of science, you're only testing the alternative. That is to say that your supposition of cause, you're trying to prove as true. If you think A causes B, B being the phenomena you're studying in nature, you want A to be the cause. You want to vary A and see B happen. That's the outcome you are trying to achieve, and you only test for that outcome. What you don't test for is to not get that outcome. Yeah? That is the aspect of falsifiability that's built into the scientific method. So observable, testable, repeatable, and falsifiable. Falsifiable because within the suppositional statement of cause that is a hypothesis, you've got, it's also known as a scientific prediction. Might as well drop that in there. That's what a hypothesis is. A scientific prediction predicts the cause of the effect. Well, in that prediction, you've got two statements. A causes B, B being the effect you're studying and want to induce, and A does not cause B. Now that's the falsifiability aspect, because at the end of the procedure, that's varying A to see if it causes B, that's an experiment. At the end of that process, one or other will be proven, disproving, falsifying the other. So if A doesn't cause B, that statement is proven true, but A causing B is ultimately falsified, because both can't simultaneously be true. That is the aspect of falsifiability. Now, what he's doing is juxtaposing that with people relinquishing just those stories and moving over to a new hotness when one comes along, but implying that that's somehow bloody science because something's been shown to be wrong. So the word falsifiable is being taken to the context of proven wrong because it's a just so story in this little magic trick that Tyson's trying to pull off here. And I'm pulling apart for a live audience. Shout out to Godzilla for the super chat, who says, so for the heliocentric religion, is Tyson their Black Pope? Also, good morning. I don't really get the reference for Black Pope. Do you just mean because he's black and he's like head of the heliocentric pseudoscience church, making him the Pope? Is that what you mean? Because if so, racist. The black bit's not relevant. But maybe I will call them that.
It was relating to his hidden power in the background. Which is probably what it was. I think he's greasing the skids here for the old baller argument of the word what supersede means. So he's not going to wanting to destroy Newton, but Einstein's going to supersede him, which doesn't mean it's wrong. It means it encompasses it, which is where I smell it's going.
You know, there's an interesting point about experiment because there is an aspect of Newtonian and relativity that is experimentally falsifiable, and that's the concept of locality of photons.
Yeah, but the aspect of falsifiability, would that be to say that you're assuming a cause, trying to validate it and showing that it is not the case, and therefore validating the null, falsifying the presumed cause of the locality of photons? Is that something that you're saying could be falsified if you put it through the method? Isn't necessarily the case, but it could be.
Well, yeah, that the cause of the photon's motion is the photon behind it. No, that would be a locality. That'd be a local push. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, are you referring to the laws of Newton were not correct in terms of if we use quantum mechanics, that photon hasn't got a position necessarily, which means Newton's laws and Einstein's laws can't be correct.
Right, using Bell's theorem, yeah. But, you know, you can experimentally show that concept false.
I just walk back in, just jumping in here. Whether it's Einstein or Newton, they're both claiming some sort of gravity. What does a helium balloon do to both of those?
Well, I can describe a helium balloon following a bent geodesic in space-time, if that's what you're inferring. So I don't know if that's going to make your example fall flat on its face, but we'll see.
Well, he's saying that gravity is a force, and then later they're saying gravity is not a force, and then they're bringing in 4D space-time, and then obviously you can't use a concept. You can't show me time in the box. You know, we've gone over that. But the whole point is, when we did the series with the student being young all the way to the astrophysicist, it started with gravity, Newtonian, and then it ended with Einsteinian. And here we got Neil deGrasse Tyson mixing and mashing. But at the end of the day, they need gravity to be a force because what's keeping the water and everything on Earth? They still need it to be in conceptual form, some kind of a force that doesn't allow.
No, you're correct. Yes, that is the purpose of what he's doing. Yes, you're absolutely spot on. He's blurring the lines because they need a force, is what you're saying, and you're correct.
That's what happened with Einstein. Einstein's theories of motion and gravity
were not right either.
If you put in low speeds and low gravity in the equations,
speeds. Well, quantum mechanics has just been discussed, and when you're talking about speeds for things that have got a diffraction pattern, a probability distribution, how are you going to describe the speeds? I mean, this notion has all been debunked by quantum mechanics.
They become Newton's equations.
No, they don't. Is he talking about bent geodesics in space-time becoming Newtonian? No, they do not.
I'd like to see the formula for that.
Yep, show us. Okay. We'll hold Tyson to this. He's saying that you can turn Einsteinian pseudo 4D space-time into Newtonian 3D Euclidean geometry. That's what he said just then. Was he not? Let's just double check before I.
Well, maybe he saw Interstellar and it's like, remember that giant chalkboard full with all that formula? That was supposedly the solution, right?
I'm not talking about Interstellar, right? I just want to hear what he said again. Let's just listen again.
Einstein's theories of motion and gravity, if you put in low speeds and low gravity in the equations, they become Newton's equations.
Low speeds and low gravity. What, low amounts of bent space-time become 3D? That's wrong. That's incorrect. Can't be done. Isn't geometrically possible. So, what's he talking about? This is either ignorance or just part of the swindle in verbal bullshitting, because this is simply not the case. So, what do you reckon? Just part of the magic
Low
trick?
speeds.
Lies? What is
I
it?
think it's a
But
sloppy
low
briefcase
speed-
switch. It's just a sloppy, everybody can see it briefcase switch. Like, no.
Yeah, low speeds. I mean, technically, according to Newtonian, what they call Newtonian gravity, there's an instantaneous action at a distance. Whereas with Einsteinian, everything is limited to a two-way speed of light calculation. So how does slowing down what they're calling general relativity or whatever the hell that would mean?
Well, there's a
create,
pattern.
You know, instantaneous action at a distance force. You know, it's complete nonsense. He's
There's a
BSing
pattern.
people. Sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Brian. No, I'm sorry. I thought you were done twice. No, there's a pattern developing with it. First, he says the reason this thing is here is because we didn't know there was a planet behind it. And the reason that thing did that is we didn't know there was a planet behind it. So that explains everything. Just say there's something behind it until you find it. There's something behind that. That explains that. So now he's saying this about Einstein and Newton. Well, okay, it doesn't work. Something's wrong. But you know, if it's low speeds, it does work. Well, can you please demonstrate either of those? You can't demonstrate any of the stuff that you're talking about.
Okay, quick shout out to
Yeah, but
original.
the low speed of what?
Oh, I waited. Shout out to Original D-Rose, says, alluding to Godzilla 37, or at Godzilla 37, I stand over the statement, Tyson being, quote, so-called, eliminates prejudices and stereotypes when redundant BS comes from pastime so-called white male representatives, hence being hyper-influential. That's a bit of a mouthful. Thanks, D-Rose, for the super chat, and also for the second super chat that says, correction, typo, Tyson being so-called black. Okay, gotcha. Let's just read that again. I stand over the statement, Tyson being so-called black eliminates prejudices / stereotypes when redundant BS comes from pastime so-called white male representatives, hence being hyper-influential. Thank you for the super chats, Original D-Rose. Really appreciate the support.
I object to Newton being representative of me.
Newton wasn't being representative as black. Did you mishear?
Well, the white people don't want him either. So somebody's got to take him.
But the white people aren't claiming
beginning-
that Newton was black. Let's just get this nipped in the bud.
Pardon me.
Beginning of this-
Excuse me.
Well
For
done.
Zen Solo, who just asked me, Zen Solo just put in the super chat. I'm sorry. He said, I have no idea what you said, LOL. And I wasn't speaking about Newton. I was speaking about Tyson, according to Godzilla. Godzilla made a good point. A lot of times when they put somebody that's so-called black, that grabs a demographic. That also eliminates the prejudices and the stereotypes of, oh, here goes another guy. Here goes another European so-called white guy telling us and switching the game and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of times when they put a poster boy, ooh, well, why would they put him on there? Tyson grabs a certain influence to the world to say, even Tyson says, see, they now have the head top astrophysicist is a so-called African American, so his word must be bond. He must know better. He would never lie to the world because he's a product of the atrocities of the world. That's what I was trying to say. Zen Solo.
No, we totally
Now
got
you
it.
can't-
It was. I was just to be clear. We were joking around, or I was when I said it was in regards to Newton being black. No, your point was really clear in your super chat. I'm glad you reiterated it because it's a good point. You're saying he's going to be more household friendly if he's a black man. That's what you're basically saying.
Exactly. So you
Well,
got it, Zen Solo,
let's-
if you're out there listening.
No, I think you're right. I think
not forget.
it's worth discussing. What would be the impression if it was who's more effective, Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson? And the answer is by a million miles Tyson, because you can easily look at Bill Nye and go, "Yeah, white privileged prick, middle class tosser, get lost."
Hang on. Don't forget how this whole video starts. Neil deGrasse Tyson's hero, his man, is Isaac Newton, the white European.
That doesn't make him black.
I didn't say he was black. I'm just saying Neil deGrasse Tyson honors this guy.
Exactly. I
So-
understand what 10th Man is saying. He's saying, yeah, well, if Newton supports him, why don't you support him, all you 14 million or so
Oh,
African
gotcha.
Americans?
Now I'm picking up on where I'm not picking up. Right, okay. So you're saying if the nice, friendly black man says that this white privileged guy is to be trusted, then we should all trust that white privileged guy? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Gotcha, 10th. Okay, very good. We're almost at the end of
Hold
this
on.
video, by the way. Also, 100 people watching. Woo! Please share the show. Obviously, a massive thank you to all of you shared already. That's the only reason we've got the people watching that we have.
So Newton's universe is a subset, an accurately described subset of a larger universe that Einstein has described.
Shout out to Adam Meakin. Called it. Absolutely correct. Told you my panel were absolutely freaking ace. Yeah. So he was greasing the skids the whole time, Adam.
Smelt like it. Like it just smelt like when we used to argue the word supersede.
Yep.
He's not wrong.
And even with Einstein,
Refracted.
Say again, Brian.
Just say shout out refracted.
I don't know what that means.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
his equations can't take us to the center of a black hole, the singularity that's there, the singularity at the beginning of the universe.
Sorry. His equations can't take you to a black hole because a black hole is consistent of the center of a bent geodesic in space-time. So the fact that it's being produced by the dimension integral to 4D space-time in Einstein that is literally not present in Newtonian geometry, how can it? It's just, what? Go ahead, Adam.
I've got an image now of him trying to get on a Newtonian equation and not being able to go to the moon. Gets on the latest Einsteinian equation and he can go to the moon. Go to the center of a black hole, sorry. This is the point. He's saying the equation doesn't allow me to go there. Newton's maths doesn't. But if I use Einsteinian, I can make all sorts of stuff up to show that I could go to the center of a black hole. Does it even mean black holes exist? No. I'm not sure really what it proves, other than all of this is not in reality, it's in mathematics.
I'm going to steal their examples after these super chats because they do it by juxtaposing various dimensions, and I can do that too in reverse. So I'm going to do that after shouting out these super chats. So Godzilla37, thank you very much indeed. Says D Rose is ace. My point was a pun, meant to be lightly taken lightly, but D Rose's point is indeed valid. Again, I got the pun, and you know, to reiterate your pun, I turned it into a joke about Newton, but you know, why not? But it still had an absolutely valid point attached to it, and D Rose is ace. So thank you for the super chat, Godzilla37. Also, go ahead,
Nathan. I'm sorry, real quick to add just a little small part of it. What's really impacting to what impacts the whole point that I'm saying and Godzilla saying? How dare Nathan or say 10th Man or whoever is supposedly so-called white criticize this renowned astrophysicist African-American from the United States? See, they always put a brother down. That's another thing. You can't criticize. You know, you can walk on eggshells when you're criticizing Obama versus criticizing Bush. That's how they do. Put the brother in there, let him run the same game, and how dare the male white males?
That might be true. You can
That's
hear the
how they do
objection
it.
in everyone's voice. I'm going to go
Yeah.
first, though, 10th. That might be true for the States, but I'm going to ask Adam to back me up. That sort of racial prejudice and the manipulation of said racial prejudice isn't anywhere near as prevalent here in the UK. I think Adam would agree.
I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. That's why I said the United States. That's the game they play here.
Yes.
It's the strongest here.
Yeah, and it's kind of overt to people who see it from here. So because it isn't that way here in terms of no offense to black people around the world, no one gives a shit here that you're black or not, which is a good thing. Take my word for it. It doesn't make any difference here. Now, don't get me wrong. There is going to be, like everywhere, a small percentage of racists, literal racists, that just don't like black people. But for the most part in the UK, there isn't a sort of, at least perceived, because of the indoctrination you get through your televisions in the States, perceived racial outrage and hatred that needs to be built upon to divide and conquer. That's all it's really used for. But the extent that it's used for in the States isn't the same as it is here, because I mean, I'm seeking Adam's approval in this regard. You're in a presumably quite Muslim area like I grew up in, right? Which isn't black, but it's the same thing when you're talking about racial prejudices. Correct, Adam?
Well, no, I've got a very black community. I've got African blacks, and then you've got the Caribbean blacks. So we've got that. We've got Muslims. We've got pretty much everything. It's pretty multicultural. So I think within people, you wouldn't call that card wouldn't be used person to person over here. You might see it in the media a little bit, but certainly not in this topic. You'd see it in more contentious social issues where it would be played, but in no way in the world would the criticism of something like the lady that's took over Patrick Moore's job, she's black, yeah? Doesn't mean nobody would criticize her and say she's talking crap at all. It wouldn't be a consideration to me for their points of view. Why was she claiming this, that, and the other? I don't think it in this field or in any kind of scientific field or theory field that it would be even thought of in terms of the criticism. But I could probably recognize it more in the States. I get D. Rose's point because he's a lot more immune to criticism.
Yes.
And he will play the black card. Then you can hear him do that a number of times to say, you can't challenge me. Look at me. I'm a strong, proud African American representing physics. You should just get behind me.
Yeah, that wouldn't wash here. In other words, where you might have an aspect of people being or treading lightly because he's a brother, here that wouldn't make any difference, or at least to me. And by the sounds of things, Adam, and we're speaking for stereotyping a lot of people here, so I've got to be quite careful. But I wouldn't give a crap. I don't care what colour your skin is, and I don't think the majority of the people in the UK, unless they're specifically racist, I've got to put that disclaimer in, because he's got a different colour skin to the majority of the people in the country. Therefore, there is going to always be that. But I'm saying, for the most part, it's not going to make any difference that you're black. That I'm going to. I don't care that you're black. I'm criticising your point. The fact that you're black is irrelevant.
Well, hold on. Let me just flip this around right quick. Being from a multicultural society like the United States, we can safely say that European countries are predominantly white. Therefore, you all are racist.
You could argue that as inherent, but yeah, in terms of how the attitude would come across, in terms of, I don't know, maybe it is prevalent. I used to work in recruitment. I've worked in.
I'm kidding.
I can't think of.
Don't defend that.
Go on, John.
Don't defend that. I was just being a smart ass.
Yeah, I could tell. He was joking.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on it. Can you say it again then? Because I didn't pick up on it being a smart ass comment. I just reacted to it off the cuff and I've forgotten what you said now.
Being from a multicultural society, because the U.S. has a lot more different types of people, because it is a country of immigrants, right? I could flip it back and say, because you're from a predominantly European country, which is, or you're from a white country, which is associated as a European country, say that that's racist. It's all just divisive terminology. That's
I
all
got
it
you.
is.
You're playing on the divide and conquer aspect and introducing it as a jape. I got you. However, there is some sentiment of truth in your statement, though. That's the maybe ironic point here, but maybe we won't labour that. I will shout out him's sake, though, before the chat goes off my screen. Stop scamming me out of money. What? With science that proves things, Nathan. Okay. I'll try my best not to.
Look, they do the race card in politics and wherever they find it convenient. There are people who are racist, and that's wrong. But to use the race card in everything is a ploy. That's just a joke. In California, before I moved, I think the DMV had to speak like over 60 languages. We were so many types of people, everyone getting along with everybody until somebody who comes and stirs it up with the race card.
Well, I think the thing is it's not just in America now that it's about black hate, it's about white guilt. And that's what they push. That's why you see so many stupid white people supporting things that even black people aren't supporting. And they're doing it out of guilt. Stupid things that happen.
You are absolutely right, but we will just diverge into the Hegelian dialectic if we're not careful. And yes, divide and conquer, and yeah, splitting whites against blacks, men against women. I find it fascinating. It is something I look at off the flat Earth clock, so to speak. At the moment, I'm looking at the way the dialect. How do you say that word? Is it dialectic? Hegelian dialectic. I can never quite say that right. Anyway.
Never say dielectric.
Like dielectric.
And I just want to say again, being almost 60, living in the United States of America, both sides do it. It ain't just the so-called whites doing it, pushing that race card. It's a lot of the ones who call victimization. They use it a lot for their getting over and trying to get excuses for this and that and there. So let's be clear on that too.
That may be true, D-Rose, but your language is now buying into that paradigm, or that it's not paradigm, that flip side of the coin being put against each other in your phraseology. It's not just the one side, it's but the whole putting one side against each other in the first instance, be it black against white, male against female, whatever it may be, is introduced to keep people under control. That's the only reason it's done. If you're fighting amongst yourselves, then you're not pointing your attention towards the common enemy that's keeping you under control, suppressing you, or taking away some of your freedoms, a lot of which is going on at the moment. So where your freedoms are being taken away from you, or your civil liberties are slowly being eroded, that is less noticeable if you're concerned that the white man's suppressing you, or it's the same flip side of the same coin. You're guilty because of your white privilege. You know, that keeps you distracted and keeps you under control. Keeps you fighting amongst yourselves.
You nailed it.
Well, it's just common knowledge in terms of divide and conquer. But anyway, let's see if we can round it out. Still 100 people watching. Did nobody take heed of my last encouragement to share the show? I'm being dead serious. Please share the show. I should have also, I hadn't done this yet. Good job of reminding myself. Please go and let this videographer know, as we're still actually broadcasting. Thank God my RAM stayed working. So this video, which is called Neil deGrasse Tyson, Einstein versus Newton, who was right, ? On the channel Discovery Panda. Although this can't be the original videographer, right? With 1.78k subscribers. This is just somebody who's republished it, right?
Doesn't matter. Just send it and thank them.
Okay, well, they're going to share anyway, as we've covered this video, but I would imagine this is definitely not the original videographer. But there we go. Let them know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. That's all it needs.
Hey, it's probably the only way we're going to get a response is we go to the indirect medium that shared it, because the direct medium never gets in touch with us, hardly ever.
Fair enough. You've shared it, and it's not from the original source. 10th. I'm not going to have a go at you. It's not your fault. It doesn't matter. But please let the videographer who republished this know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There is a link whizzing on by in the chat as we speak. So just click on it. You will still be here when you come back, but just leave them a polite comment. Help them in the algorithm. They need all the help they can get. They're definitely a small channel republishing stuff, which, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not a videographer, and I don't know, and I haven't checked, but we are responding to their video, which has made its way up the algorithm for whatever reason. So there we go. Just let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Hopefully it'll return and the numbers will go back up after you've come back. Anywho, let's carry on. Hopefully we will get to the end of this video on this live stream.
We know now that his theories fail.
Yeah, so they weren't theories. Theories are based on scientific validation. That's empirical evidence. They don't fail thereafter if they're scientific theories.
They blow up.
He just hang on. He says now, we know now his theories fail. A minute ago, he says they don't fail if it's a smaller speed.
Yeah. Yeah. You can use pseudo four-space time geodesic spending to describe Euclidean three-space if you make it slow enough and less enough gravity. So if you don't warp the bending space-time enough in the fourth dimension, you'll create the fourth dimension in the third dimension. Oh, that was what I was going to do. I was going to take it back the other way. Yes, exactly. right. Hopefully I can retrain my brain to where it was 10 minutes ago. If you imagine that his notions of being able to describe Einsteinian mechanics in Newtonian geometry is true, then it's akin to saying, when I draw a full size, that is to say, I get a canvas that's 6 foot high, and on the canvas I draw a table and a chair. Can you sit on the chair in a 3-dimensional manner when it's a painted picture on a canvas? I'm going to ask this, it's not rhetorical, so if anyone wants to play along, feel free. But that's my question. In terms of the way he will juxtapose a 4th dimension with a 3rd dimension in this regard. So he's saying bent geodesics, that's a 4th dimensional concept, space-time, will be diluted down to 3-dimensionality. Okay, well, likewise, can we go the other direction? Because obviously, if it's translatable one way, it's translatable from Newtonian mechanics to Einsteinian. And I'm saying, okay, well, let's see by comparison, so you can conceptualize what that would involve. Can you translate a picture that's 2-dimensional into you actually sat on the chair, physically? Not with any remaking of the picture, but just based on its 2-dimensionality. Is there a 3rd dimension in the canvas for you to sit on, is the question.
No, there isn't.
Right.
There can't be.
And likewise, when you go from Newtonian 3 dimensions to Einsteinian 4th dimensions, there is no geodesic in bent space-time to create a black hole in the maths. So it's never going to translate, because there's no 4th dimension in Newtonian mathematics. It just doesn't exist. It's an extra invented dimension by Einstein to solve problems of gravity that have, been superseded since Einstein, but essentially are overcome by gas law. Not actual laws of nature that are inviolable and do always apply, unlike this garbage that's also been labelled as a law when it comes to Einsteinian 4th dimensional space-time. Not translatable to Newtonian mechanics of mass attracting mass that you need for your moon landings. Please share the show, by the way. Let's see if we can crawl up the viewing numbers beyond 100.
On the page. So we have a whole frontier of science. The string theorists, you've heard of them. The string theorists, we got top people working on this to try to extend Einstein's laws into an even bigger regime.
Stop. Stop.
Yeah, God, lots of objections.
This is like a movie.
Hold on,
This is
10th.
like a
Hold on,
movie.
10th. I had Adam
Oh,
first.
gosh.
Adam, then 10th. Go ahead.
What sort of men's he got working on it? Top men. There's
I'm
the
just saying-
validation is my point. That's just, yeah. To prove this is real science, we've got the top men working on it. It's just
Go ahead, 10th.
pure rhetoric.
No, it's the same as Adam. This reminds me of movies. We got our top people working on it. It's like, what? Who are they working on what? Something that only exists in the math? I mean, give me a break.
These are the same top people that were huddled around a really good idea. And then when something else came along, they're very fickle. They huddled around a different idea. Those sort of top men. Right?
Well,
Yeah,
if Newton was the top man before, he's not the top man now.
That can then explain everything that's in our universe, not most things.
So what you're saying is that human activity is causing the planet to warm.
Sorry, who is this woman and how the hell did she extract that from what he's just said? Sorry, separate agenda? One-track mind? What's the problem, lady? You notice how I couldn't give 2 tosses that she's female? Yeah? Speak shit, expect pain. That's the bottom line here, right? When you associate those 2 things together and everyone laughs, it's because they weren't paying attention to what Tyson was actually saying. You know, when you're going through it word by word and you hear a non sequitur like that, you go, whoa, where did that come from?
I think the whole purpose of it.
I think
Brian.
she's making a joke
Purpose of
about. Go on, Brian.
I was saying the whole purpose of what she said and her coming in there was to move people's attention away in a humorous way, but also begging the question way, away from what Tyson was saying, which makes absolutely no sense to anyone who actually is listening. And in any way, concerning their own model. So things like that, as you see in these public settings and these videos, these things are always happening. Where at the point where he should be amalgamating something or explaining something, this nonsense comes in and it's a diversion away from him having to amalgamate, let's just say, 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional maths. You know,
It's the distraction in his magic stage act, isn't it? She is. He's just done a little bit of chicanery. So she's over there going, ta-da! So you look over there, yeah, with that nonsense. So like you say, Brian, so you would kind of don't digest the waffle that's just come out.
Right.
So he's
No,
never
I-
presented the formula then. He hasn't actually gotten to that.
No, Alwyn, but it was something that I'm glad you reminded me of, because it's something we can hold him to task on. He did specifically say, I can't remember the exact quote, so I have to paraphrase, I'm sorry. But he's essentially saying that your Newtonian 3-dimensional mathematics will work in a 4th-dimensional black hole way when you go with, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of my paraphrasing, he said if you've got a slow enough speed and a smaller amount, I can't remember how I phrased it, of gravity, a lesser amount of gravity, something like that. Well, that's his claim now.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to see those.
He started to describe that, but I don't think that actually went anywhere. It just kind of gave that sort of example and then moved on.
Doesn't matter. He made it as a claim. So therefore,
That was
okay,
his-
we want to
that
see those
was-
maths. That's his claim. It didn't matter that he didn't back it up. Go ahead, Adam.
That was the supersedence point of view. So when he was trying to justify that Einstein wasn't just full of crap, and because we've now got Einstein, that's his point of validation. You see, you can encompass, so it encompasses it at slower speeds and lower gravity. Then it does work. So he wasn't wrong, but the way we view it now, we can see that we've got more explanation. I think is the way he tried to picture it.
Well, can I say
well,
this?
I see it.
Hold on, Brian. Go
Go on,
ahead, John, then Brian.
Well, if I can write a story within the Star Wars universe that encompasses Narnia, does that make either one of them true?
Totally.
Hold on. Depends how well it works mathematically.
Mr. Timbers with the
Does it?
lightsaber, I'm saying yes to that.
Well, that's called a crossover, right? You can merge a universe through like interdimensional crossovers in storytelling.
Predator
That's
versus
all it
Alien.
is. That's all it is, though. It's storytelling. Like this is just storytelling. Both sides.
But a razor blade
Well-
made out of a lightsaber to shave Aslan, that would be pretty cool.
Well, how I see it is a little bit different. It's actually very straightforward. As all he's doing is making the same claim that ballers made to us for a good few years, that none of them could ever produce any evidence for. Is that what he's actually stating is, if I change Einstein's field equations, then I can make all kinds of crazy claims about them. But they're not Einstein's field equations anymore. So it's not Einstein's general relativity that you're using. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson's field equation. Because once you change Einstein's field equations, you can't claim they're Einstein's anymore. You can't do that. You know, because it's like, if I paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa, can I then claim that it's still done by Leonardo da Vinci? He didn't paint that mustache. You know what I mean? So it's not the Mona Lisa anymore. That's not Einstein's field equations anymore. So once he changes them, then they're his. It's Tyson's field equations, not Einstein's. And that's what he's trying to do without stating it. Honestly.
What I'm saying is emergent scientific truths assert this. And if you want to deny that in a free country, go right ahead. But you should not be put in control of anything that involves the earth.
So where's the evidence?
Emergent, not the method, but just emergent.
It's funny that a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Tyson here now, we've kind of heard already. It's like as if he's allowing the ballers to kind of make stuff up, and then he's kind of going along with that made up stuff because he has no way to defend questions that we might pose to him. People like us, let's just say. Or just these questions, not us in specific. What?
I think she was just making a little pun or joke about global warming and saving the earth, and that's why he said what he said to her.
I don't know, guys, but you're all ridiculous and you're not deserving of being in control of the earth. If you don't believe that Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian gravity are compatible, right? You just got to believe it. He didn't present the actual evidence. He just reiterated, like, yeah, if you don't believe it, you're just stupid, man.
Perfect. I'm going to take this opportunity to do a semi-round out, if you want to call it that, because if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams or live, then stay tuned as I'm going to continue the live stream just to stress test the computer. But obviously this would be the normal round out point for the live show, other than I want to keep the stress on the computer. So the conversation will continue live, but I want to say a massive thank you to both Discord, G+, and Element panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff, just in case the show does crash after this round out. So with that, I'll hand back to the panel. Hopefully you can enjoy their dulcet tones as I fiddle and faff and check that everything's still at the right temperature. But yeah, stay tuned if you're watching live. I will do potentially another round out if we go to the after show. And yeah, that's it. So this is a weird moment now, because obviously we've got to transition back to having a conversation after me doing a round out when I haven't actually ended the show. But if you can ignore that, we'll hopefully continue at the same tempo.
Well, I was going to say something on what he just said. It's similar to a Christian saying, if you're not Christian, you can't run the world. It's
Exactly.
pretty much
He got
his
a lot of
stance.
nerve saying that. I was going to say that charlatan, chubby clown. How dare he?
He rose.
How dare he?
Yeah, but someone like D-Rose is going to get more angry at Neil deGrasse Tyson because he doesn't
Yes.
have all the indoctrination that the public has, the white public has,
I'm sick of it.
because he can see right
I'm
straight
sick-
through Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I'm sick
So,
of him.
I just want to see the formula, man. I mean, I believe him. I believe. Could you show how, please, Neil?
it's an
Or
equation.
fight the
Artie.
flat Earth, who I remember brought this up. It's almost like, did Neil just take over a fight the flat Earth argument?
Exactly,
Nathan,
Alvin.
it's-
That's what I was saying. Sorry,
Nathan, what's the line from the movie where it says our mathematicians could make the stars further or closer?
It's not a movie. That's from 1984. So when he's torturing the
Right,
main
but that-
character, he's in room 101, and I don't know what he's doing, putting rats on his face or something like that, horrible. And he starts appealing to the notions of space, and he asks him if it's, do you not think it's beyond our mathematicians to make the stars close or far away? It's posed as a question from memory, but it's been a while since I've read 1984. But that
Right,
it's
but-
actually it's from that. Anyway, just one sec. One shout out to James Richards. He says the shape of the Earth has nothing to do with science. It's all about razzle dazzling the mind. Yeah, exactly. It's not a cause and effect relationship when you talk about the concrete noun of Earth's shape. Now, we as flat earthers shouldn't be claiming shape, because an aspect of Earth's geometry is how flat it is. But Brian, I'm hoping, will take over from that and describe how stating that is actually wrong. So we'll see if he corrects me. Brian,
Can I round out that previous point before Brian goes?
only because Brian's
Please?
going to correct me in terms of a flat statement in terms of geometric assertions, but we'll see. Brian, I'd prefer to go first if you don't mind. You might not be there.
Could you tell me that again, Nathan?
Oh, don't worry about it.
What you said again.
Don't worry about it, Brian. It's
No,
not that important.
No, I want to do it. It's just that I want to make sure that I'm.
It's just it was something you made note of in one of your recent videos in terms of people not understanding geometry when they say it can't be flat or they're describing flat. It's a harken back to Bev with their misapprehensions of flat versus level. But don't worry about it.
Yeah. No. People don't understand. The people are holding other people to a geometric standard when they use the term flat. Flat is only describing. It's only a description. So to give an example, a 5-inch in diameter pizza that has mozzarella, tomato sauce, and onions on it, then you couldn't describe the top of that flat. You'd have to say it's kind of got undulations. But if you use those exact same toppings and make the base 500 miles in diameter, then you'd only describe the whole thing as flat, because it's a way of describing. You're describing what you see. So when they say we have hills and mountains and valleys, so it's not flat, it's like, no, it means that you're using the term flat in a geometric standard, which is completely wrong.
Perfect.
That's what I'm trying. Yeah.
No, that's
I mean,
perfect. That was as
Brian-
concise
would
as
only be a tiny. Well, yeah.
No, I just want to commend you at the end, where you have a habit of you'll reiterate it, and at the point of the highest consistency, I want to say, great, well pointed out. That's exactly the point I was hoping you'd point out. Yes, thank you.
And may I make a pun? But
You
not
can
a
after
pun?
10th, who's waiting in the queue.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, D Rose. My point was on Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Go ahead,
I'm
D-Rose.
sorry. I wanted to allude to what Brian was saying. And there's this particular style of pizza. It's called flatbread. Okay, flatbread. Now they wouldn't call it flatbread if it wasn't flat. So I understand what Brian's saying, and I reiterate what Brian's saying. But let's stop using semantics, globers,
D-Rose.
and people who want to act like they don't know what
No,
we're talking
hold on.
about.
I'm glad you've said that because it means he's missed his point.
hang
No.
on. D-Rose,
Sorry.
Well,
He's missed his point. He's missed Brian's point.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
No, I didn't. I
I
mean,
was
I
gonna
sound
say-
like I did, but I didn't.
Okay, go ahead, 10th.
Oh my gosh, the timing. No, I was going to say, D-Rose, when it comes to pizza, nobody gives a toss.
Why did I
the
know a
point
pun
being-
was coming?
Sorry. The point being that if you take the full height of Mount Everest above mean sea level, which is 5.5 miles, and you divide that into the even though it seems wrong mathematically, but if you divide that into the total surface area within the latitude and longitude grid, it divides into it something like 90 million times. So are you going to notice, if you could see the whole of the Earth, are you going to notice Mount Everest sticking up? No, you're not. The same way as you don't see little undulations on your tabletop. But if you get down real close or zoom in or get a microscope, you'll notice them. So, so it's not, flat is just a description.
Right.
It's not a geometric claim.
Having
It's
one
not a
part,
cow is
having
small.
one part that isn't higher or lower than the other, right? You can describe in terms of it being level. But when D-Rose did give a reasonably good example in that regard, it's like, well, if you look at flatbread, is it flat? Well, no, but is it an aspect? Is the aspect of it supposed to be no aspect one higher or lower than the other across the entirety? Well, yeah, but you're talking about comparing a whiteboard and saying when horizontal, this isn't flat. Well, why not? Well, because if you get down to the microscopic level, you can see that there's tiny little undulations in the surface. Okay, fine. But it's still level. It's still measured level.
It's not even that. It's like, what other word can you use to describe that whiteboard? The surface. If you can't describe it as flat, what other word is there as a description? Because flat is a description. You can't describe it as curved. You can't describe it as rectangular. You can only describe it as flat. Flat is the description that we have
Right.
to describe these things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And every
But
word,
it's not
and every word
geometry.
you use, Brian, has synonymity. Is synonymous with flat, leveled, plane. That's all synonymous with flat. Because when they made that board, they used a leveler, which is a tool that levels planes to make them leveled. And then that's how they made the chalkboard or the whiteboard, whatever. They know this. They use semantics to try to play that mind game, word game, to try to
Right.
avoid being the concession. That's it.
Right. And what are the undulations in regard to? Right. You said microscopic undulations in regard to what? Because the baseline is what we're talking about. And that's what it's measured against. So even on the microscopic level, you're still comparing it to a flat baseline when you're talking about something that you experience as flat. And you're measuring against that baseline to say there's undulations. So even
Well,
that
yeah,
falls
even
apart.
if we take water at rest, right? Water at rest, right? And we state that water level is a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference. Let's just say we state that. Now that would mean that we're claiming that this water level between these two vials of water is horizontal, right? But if you go in microscopically on the top of that water, it won't be totally flat. There'll be little microscopic, undulations on the surface of the water. It won't be, because it has bonds and different things, it won't appear exactly flat to you. As in, if you're expecting it to be 100% smooth without undulations, that won't happen. It can't happen. We don't live in a two-dimensional world. Everything is three-dimensional. It just might appear two-dimensional to us from a greater perspective, but microscopically, there is no such thing as two dimension.
Right, but still those microscopic undulations will be measured against. If you're measuring a flat surface and you zoom in, you will still be measuring those undulations against a flat baseline. It's confusing the geometry with experience and trying to say geometry is what we experience. That's the trick.
Yeah, should I describe the Earth as a topographical plane, or should I just say it's flat? I mean, what's me saying it's a topographical plane? Well, what am I claiming there? You know, I'm not describing it as a whole, am I? How is what saying topographical plane different from flat? How is that different? You know, things like that. Trying to make up different descriptions for the Earth. There's only one way to correctly describe it, and that's flat. That is the only way to correctly describe it. But flat is not a shape, it's not a geometric claim. Sorry, 1 second, just give me a finish. Flat is not a shape, it is not a geometric claim. You can't hold someone to a geometric standard. And the people who first started this spent a whole year holding people to a geometric standard before they looked at the definition of flat, which has a load of different definitions because it's a description. Finished.
All right. Remember Highlander came and said, Nathan, my house is built on a hillside. I'm not on the flat earth. It's like, wait a minute, what's your foundation? Do you have a foundation that's level and horizontal for your house, or is it on the curve of the hill?
Exactly. Go to Bel Air and talk that crap, them homes on the hill in California. And you can see where, when you look at how they're on those mud hills, that their foundation is as leveled as crazy. And then they have these long pillars that come into the earth that you can see the difference of why they're not tilted, because they were built on the hill, like he said. The freaking house, they'd be walking sideways on their house. They'll be going down to their living room, literally, like going down that hill. Come on, they know better. They try to play stupid. They play stupid to avoid concession.
Right, but by the standard they're trying to hold us to with that nonsense argument, if you flipped it back on them, well, then the Earth's not curving either because there's microscopic undulations. It's ridiculous. It's ad absurdum. It's reducing the argument to the level of absurdity just so you don't have to admit it.
Exactly. Next thing you know, you arguing like they say, why are you arguing with that 3-year-old child? That's what my wife used to say to me. Why are you even negotiating to argue with the child? The child's only 6. I mean, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm the adult. I know better. But that's how they do it. They're children, and they're just playing games, and they're just, excuse the language, fucking with your head.
Well, what it is actually is you have a lot of people who think they're finding some kind of new wisdom or knowledge without thinking about what it is that they're actually stating. There's nothing new or wisdom or knowledge about it. You're holding people who are describing something with the term flat to a geometric claim. It's not a geometric claim. It is only a way of describing. So how can you hold someone to a geometric claim? You're not. So there's people out there who are latching onto this, who are not giving it any thought, new people and different things, and they think they've reached some kind of new level of understanding and wisdom and enlightenment. You haven't. You've actually gone down, not up, because you don't understand the thing that you think you're fighting against.
We experience this all the time in debate. So when we do the gas pressure, and the antecedent is a container, and we cite everything, including NASA, saying that they have to use their logic and reason to say, you know what, you're right, but they don't. So what they do is say, okay, well, what if there's some kind of bubbles up there that keep the gases in next to that vacuum? It's like, where did you pull that one out of? So back to what D. Rose and refractive curvature were saying is that rather than concede, they just keep rambling on because they realize the gas pressure argument destroyed everything about outer space, but they can't concede, so they just ramble on. Now, do that to every topic in our arena. That's what keeps
Right.
happening.
Exactly, like the Simon Dan response to Nathan, where he says, "You and your reference frames are ruined." It's ad absurdum. You destroyed your own claim as well, trying to debunk Nathan. Really?
Precisely. I was waiting for somebody else to agree with it, but yeah, I agree.
No, yeah, I agree. I was doing something. But that's all they do.
I'm sorry.
It's
my
almost
kid was
like
slipping.
you could burn them at the stake, and they'd be like, "It's not hot. It's not hot." Until they burn to a crisp, their last words will be like, "Ugh." They're taught, stick to the game. Do not digress. Do not redact. Stick to the game. You can tell the ones that are really trained and that are out there to do this oppositional game back and forth with us. And then you can tell the ones who are honestly trying to figure out, because they start to show and express, even in their text, a sort of a digressing or type of, like, not concession, but like a, you know what, I never thought about it like that. I'm gonna have to do some more research. But the ones that keep coming back with these ridiculous, absurd, like he said, absurd rebuttals, they're hilarious. And I don't deal with them. I block them. I just shut them down like I did. Y'all read my test. I put a dissertation. I was like, first of all, I'm gonna jump off the jump. I'm gonna tell you, you're a liar. You know why I know you're a liar? Because that. Got no reply from them. Somebody else had to come out. Guy named Mustard said, "Chill out." I'm done with them. I'm done with them. I got time.
If you don't, if in sales, if you don't qualify your appointments, you're going to be wasting your time. You might be with the wrong audience. They don't even need your product. So, the same sense, if you don't want to waste your time, you have to qualify who you're going to talk these subjects with. I try to get them to get into the paradigm of, okay, if you present evidence to me, I'm not going to deny it. I have to get them to say that to me somehow. Like, are you going to use logic and reason through and at the end to make a decision based on our conversation? Or are you going to parrot the stuff that we were indoctrinated with? Which one are you? Because before I start, because I've had people come and say, I hear you're a flat earther. And I go, we all are. And they go, ha, ha, ha. And I go, look, I'll discuss the topic with you, but I need to know if you're going to use your logic and your reason so that when a lie is outed, you're able to see it. Or are you going to parrot what you've been taught? Which one of these people are you? If they don't answer properly, I'm not going to talk to them. It's a waste of time.
Right.
I mean, you bring the gas pressure without container, and instead of them conceding and saying, thank you very much for opening my eyes to this lie, they jump to, gravity. Then they jump to this, and they keep jumping. I go, wait a minute, I just killed 4 of your pillars for your globe Earth. 4 points I just destroyed, and you're jumping to the next one? You're like a dead man thinking you're alive still.
Well, could I
It's
just
worse
add
than
something
that.
It's worse than that.
It's worse than that. This guy initiated the conversation saying, "Hey, I jumped out of a plane 16,000 feet and I didn't saw no curve. Can somebody explain that? There's no curve?" Okay, well, I had lunch with the Sasquatch on Saturday and he didn't eat meat. Can somebody explain why Sasquatch is not real? It's like we're supposed to fall on that sword. And that's why somebody came back and had on their thing, bait. That was just a bait. That was just an asinine statement so that he can grab bait to try to lure somebody in to go back and forth and waste precious time of their life talking to an idiot. So I just cut him off. I said, you're a liar. You're a liar. You're a liar because I've been higher and lower. We've all been higher and lower. And I know many people that don't vouch for any curve. So you explain that. But I know why you're here. I know why you're here.
You know what I thought you were going to say, D. Rose? You're a liar because I am Sasquatch and I don't remember having lunch with you.
But what I find interesting from listening to today's show, is the fact that Neil deGrasse Tyson is trying to push something that our opposition here on the internet, on YouTube, have been trying to push for years. And just like Danny Faulkner, when push came to shove, he had to turn to one of them numpties to get some kind of a backup for his claims. Right, so he went to Blue Marble Science. It seems to me that the upper echelon of heliocentrism are having to turn to these people for some kind of an argument or some kind of a direction to take things, keep their model alive. But how is that going to work out for them in the future? Because there's going to be people within academia who are going to go, no. They're going to be heliocentrists. They're not going to be flat earthers. They're going to go, no, you can't mix Einstein's field equations with Newton's three-dimensional maths. You can't do that. They're going to say that. They're going to point out that can't be done. So it's going to cause infighting within their own world, because we know that the arguments that are coming at us from our opposition here on the internet are craziness. They're crazy arguments based on just a lack of logical thought, a lack of humility. That's what they're based on. So the argument will have mutated 10 times within 5 years. You know, they won't stop mutating arguments and changing them, and kind of like what we see people who are claiming to be flat earthers do as well. You know, with it.
Nathan, sorry, Brian. Nathan, are you going to do the next video? It's only 2 minutes, 45 seconds long.
No, we'll do it tomorrow. All I'm doing now is stressing out the computer by playing a computer game on it to make it hopefully fail. So, no, we'll do that tomorrow. For now, I'm happy that we're chatting, and I'm happy that the computer hasn't crashed.
But to continue what you said, that's why I had said before, if y'all remember, and I said, granted, what they're saying may be all speculative and a bunch of what ifs and da-da-da, which really hold no ground on the debate issue. But by Banjo, you know, Eddie Banjo and all them, and Taboo, by them showing that you can see the spread of the, I would say, acceptance or confirmation and affirmation for those who had a feeling that the globe narrative was bullcrap. You could see it spreading. You could see that the most unintellectual person that doesn't really know the details like this panel does, still going after and attacking the lie in any fashion that they can, whether it's by using the scriptures or whether by using the ice, anything they can use that they've been doing their own thing because of their own speculation that this is not right. This is not right. That right there is evident that the opposition, no matter who they send out, is getting beat down badly to the point where they have to be so obviously and blatantly ridiculous to assert their arguments that they don't even care that they trip over their own words. They just need to do anything desperately to try to keep that freaking bridge standing, but it's going to collapse. It's collapsing now. The foundation is breaking down. Trust me. I'm witnessing with my own eyes. We just don't witness it because we see so many stronghold idiots on here coming out, seem like they're coming out the woodworks. But I guarantee they're using sock accounts or they're doing something, because there can't be that too many dum-dums left on the earth.
Well, we have members of our opposition here online trying to set up wiki-type pages to try and dox people and all this kind of stuff. It's pathetic that they're at that point. But that's where
desperation.
They're at a point where it's really personal with them. But I do find it interesting that it's, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be wrong. I think that we have the higher echelon of heliocentrism actually turning to the lower echelon of heliocentrism for advice and arguments. Because if they come out to anyone, even a bad flat earther or a new flat earther, with some of their arguments, they will look bad even publicly at this point. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson trying to claim things, even like if he sticks to absolute heliocentric rhetoric and doesn't deflect from that. Even someone who's a new flat earther would cause him problems because he's stuck within that. He's stuck within that paradigm that he can't move out of.
They can't even, especially someone who's a frequent listener to this show and knows the argument somewhat. They lose from the very beginning because they don't have an R value. Everything that they talk about thereafter, I just say, let's get back to the thing you need to prove to say the thing you're saying now. So you want to talk about this, that's great, but you still haven't proven your R value, Earth curve, Earth curvature, your physical geometric horizon that blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings. That is your claim. That is from your Earth curve calculator maths. So if that is not true, what are we doing talking beyond that point? Let's get back to that. Show me Earth curve where it's supposed to be based on your math, based on a globe of a radius of 3959. I'm showing you the black swan. I'm showing you other black swans. It's moving. It's got wheels. It's here one day. It's there another day. How could that be? You got a physical Earth that's stretching, like as you show, Brian, in your videos. They just make it flatter and flatter. The more they see, they just make the Earth flatter and flatter. 20 over 6R, 100 over 6R. We've never even seen 6 over 6R. It's below water level. I mean, it's like it's over right there. Why let go?
Yeah.
Why talk about anything else?
Yeah, and technically,
and guess what? Tent and Brian. On top of that, back to what Brian was saying. This is chess. Chess represents the battle between two kingdoms. We are on their playing field with their tools, with their methodology, bringing it to them, using their own weapons, and we're conquering them. And what they're doing is they're saving their queens and their kings by not allowing whatever his name, Dan, whatever the guy is, the NASA guy. They're not letting I used to know his name. They're not letting all the elites go up against our side, so they send out their pawns. See, in the game of chess, let them get slayed. They didn't even send out their knights because they don't have any knights. But even though you would consider Farina Catchow, Dave Farina, he would be like, maybe I would say he's a knight because he's one of the most wealthiest earnings guy out there that they got on the team. But at the end of the day, they're preserving, they're saving their kings and their queens because they know if they bring their kings and queens on the battlefield, it's over. Game is over because their most influential will be made fools of. So that's why they send these little pawns after us.
Well, what's happening to them, though, is now their kings and queens are turning to their pawns for arguments and ways of dealing with us. Because we have no need now. Like, we don't have any need to chase down Neil deGrasse Tyson. For instance, I have no need to chase him down for a public debate because the time is coming where one of us, or more than one of us, flat earthers, him and the others are going to have to publicly address us somehow. Because it only makes his position stronger when you try and chase him down. I have no need to chase him down.
You're right, because we could concede every point they make, and they still require a flat plane in order to make the point they're trying to make. It is beyond argument. It's over.
Precisely.
Exactly.
Quick shout out. Sorry, just one sec. Shout out to Jake Man, who says, "What's up, folks?" Sky, but thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Yeah, well, if you go, what Tent mentioned earlier on about what I was making in one of my videos, what I showed in one of my videos, there is the 31-mile observation from 1 foot elevation height by BLMSB 69 in 2020 or 21. And for them to explain just the distance, now remember, it's a distance issue, just the distance to that horizon, they have to claim not 7 over 6R, 3,845 over 6R. And that still is taking place within their model. It's only a distance to the horizon. Because within their model, that's still happening below surface level. So all
You know,
that's
that's
still
one of the,
happening. Yeah. Go on.
that's one of the reasons, you know, because he done all of his calculations on a flat plane, and what they call the Earth curve calculator. That's one of the reasons I was wanting to make a video on that, because it's a flat plane horizon calculator. It's not and it doesn't. It only accounts for the Rayleigh criterion. Has nothing to do with weather, refraction, anything like that. So even the
Yeah.
moronic claim of terrestrial refraction needs a flat Earth.
Well,
So that's the thing, is
the refraction argument is all they got. And it's not even an argument, because obviously if it's refracted, how'd you ever measure it? But let's go back to the people that they were putting up onto the altars who didn't know about refraction. Okay, did Eratosthenes in his story, whether he was real or not, the shadow from the pole, was there refraction in that, to where he thought it was 7.2 degrees from Alexandria and Cyan, and all these things fit in? And okay, so by that shadow, and assuming the Earth is a ball, and assuming sun rays come in parallel, this, I just need to times that, 50 times, and I'll get the circumference of the Earth. And then you got Al-Biruni, who didn't even know about refraction in his story, and he's the one that did the dip angle to the horizon, and he was very close to the same number. So here are people on their side that didn't even know about refraction, use refraction, possibly made up stories anyway. And then now today, when we challenge it and say you need an elevation angle and you need a flat plane, a baseline to even get an angle, refraction, everything's refraction. It's like, wait a minute, what does that mean even? What is refraction? What kind of refraction are you talking about? What's the different medium that star or luminary is going into? Am I measuring it underwater? Did it go underwater and that's when I took the angle measurement? Or is it still in the air?
Well, yeah, that goes to my point, because their refraction is only widening the plane, right? And extending out the distance to the horizon on a flat plane.
Correct.
From one of those elevation heights and the flat plane, you would draw an orthographic view at that height.
So summarizing what you're saying right now is, look, Earth curve should be there, but because of refraction, it's further out. So I just made the Earth flatter.
Well, no. There is no Earth curve. The Earth's not curving. You're taking a bunch of different flat planes stacked upon each other, and you're,
agreed.
misinterpreting the mathematics.
No, I know. I agree with you. John, I agree with you, but I'm saying they would respond that way.
Oh, yeah, because they're misinterpreting the mathematics. It's wrong. What they're saying is wrong because they don't understand the math. Ain't that funny? We're the mathematically morons in their eyes,
When you had your debate with McToon and, was it Ruhif? I can't remember. Was it Ruhif at the time?
Yeah.
You conceded every point. The only thing you said was what? Can you reiterate that? Because you said, look, I'll give you everything. Go do whatever you want to do. I thought that was the best.
Yeah, I said that everything that we talk about will require a elevation angle and a flat plane to measure, or will require a geometric horizon that's been debunked. Everything will revolve around that and those 2 points.
Can I point out something that I tried to point out in the past concerning this issue? And I don't think I got my point across. It was a good while back. Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni, the claim was that he measured, right, to a geometric horizon. That would mean a globe's geometric horizon. That would mean that he measured to whatever his observer height was, 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So whatever his observer height, that's what he would have had to. That's basically what he was the claim is based around, right? It would have to match that, because that's what is based off of that claim, right? So one has to match the other, right? Now, the problem is, the reason they state, this is why that would be absolutely impossible for him to even make the claim. Because what you're talking about there is a claim of, the starting point is a claim of distance to an horizon, right? But that would be impossible because even if you take the current claims, which is that there is a standard amount of what they call refraction, which is not refraction, is just mathematical, of 7/6R, right? That means there is never not 7/6R and more than 7/6R, greater than 7/6R. There is always at least 7/6R, right? The reason they make that claim is because you will never see an horizon of foregoing fog and stuff, right? But under normal everyday conditions, you will never see an horizon where it would need to be mathematically, just in a distance, just as a distance now, not talking about curved water, just as a distance, where it would need to be mathematically for it to match the distance, it would a geometric horizon would have to be away, be from you if we're on a globe. You'll never observe that, just that horizon, just the distance, just even horizontally. You won't observe that, a foregoing fog. You will never observe that.
Quick shout out to Jokerman, who says, God bless England. And also another super chat from Jokerman, who says, just because I told you so. Well, thank you very much for the super chats. Really appreciate the support. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to today's Discord, G+, and Matrix panels for making the live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!